Imagine this. You're working at your dream job with people that you love and respect. And you go to work one day, you sit at your desk, and next to you is work that you love. And out of the blue, you receive a letter that says, not only you have to stop working there, but you cannot be in the country anymore. August 21, 2012, I was working at Inflection, an amazing Silicon Valley company, and I received that letter from the US government. I had worked really hard to get a social science degree from Harvard, which was even harder coming from a place like Ethiopia. And the US Department of Immigration decided that my work and my degree were not the right match for each other. I had to stop working, pack up my things, say goodbye to my colleagues, and leave my work the same day I received that letter. And I was no longer qualified to be in the country anymore. I felt rejected. I felt rejected from a place that I love and from a place that gave me so much, including a $200,000 scholarship to go from Ethiopia to Harvard on a one-way ticket. I was in tears when I opened that letter and read it, and my colleagues came and joined me as well. We were frantically trying to call congressmen and senators' offices, trying to see if there's something they could do about this. And they all say that the US immigration system was designed so that the country could attract talented and hardworking people to the country. But they could not do anything about this. Even the US president at that time, Barack Obama, tried to change the immigration laws so that things like this did not happen, but it still did. And I was just there thinking about this. What is going on? If these are the small issues that we cannot address, then how on earth can we tackle the bigger ones? How can we tackle climate change with the institutions that we have? How could we reverse inequality if these are the types of things that we're trying to figure out right now? And this is not about adding another checkbox to the immigration form. The solution is not about more automation. The solution to this is not running from one country to the other when you see a problem that you do not like. You see, the problem is our immigration systems are anchoring to the name of your degree to measure your value to a society. They are anchoring to your bank account to put worth that you're going to bring to your community, or the country that you're born in to be able to predict your behavior. I don't know about you, but I have not come across a single person who decided what country to be born in. There are tens of millions of people around the world who go through so many crazy hoops, trying to prove their worth, trying to prove their value to systems that are taking such a narrow view. You have a story. You have a life that cannot be summarized in a few checkboxes. But those are the systems that we have created. And this is not just in the US, my friends. This is everywhere. And so the solution to this is about putting value on human potential and how we nurture that human potential. It's about empathy. Why can't we anchor our immigration systems to the impact that you create in your life, to the value you bring to a society? Why can we put the human element and values at the heart of our institutions? And I'm not just talking about immigration here. I'm talking about our economic systems. I'm talking about the type of impact that we have in our society, the type of impact that we make on our planet. But before we go down that rabbit hole, I'd like to introduce you to somebody I used to get very embarrassed about. Here's 70-year-old me pretending to be an alien who could fly between galaxies. Other times I would climb up trees trying to be Tarzan or build the tallest skyscrapers out of mud. We were all born with the ability to imagine, with infinite capacity to be creative, to write our own definition of success. I want to ask you a question, and I want you to think about it carefully for your authentic and real answer. What does success mean to you? What do you value most in your life? To some people, success can mean building a house, getting a dream job, raising a happy and healthy family. The definition of success in my life has transformed significantly. I was born in Ethiopia during a time of famine and revolution. My family lost their land and crops to the famine, so they moved to the city where I was born. And in the city, there came a military revolutionary group to take over a communist dictator who was exporting food in exchange for tanks and AK-47s at the same time when over 1 million Ethiopians died due to starvation. And at the peak of that conflict, my family had as children sleeping on the floor. In case bullets were fired through the window, we would not get hit. At that point in my life, success meant survival. You can all remember a time when things got really hard. You wouldn't be able to imagine success the way you do today. Do we have mothers in the room? Please raise your hand really high if you're a mother. Everyone else, please join me in giving them the biggest applause of the day. We all owe so much to our mothers. My mother wanted me to keep on imagining. She wanted me to see different realities so that I can be part of creating new ones. I remember one of my favorite as a kid was she'd dress me up in fancy clothes and clean up my muddy shoes and take me to nice hotels so I could go and see children playing around and running around in a playing field and jumping into swimming pools. Sometimes I even snuck in to join the fun. I could not imagine that such a place could exist for kids. And she wasn't doing that, trying to motivate me so that one day I could try to be like those kids. She'd look at me and say, "Yoseph, you're here to create solutions." To her, this was about addressing poverty so that children, no matter where they are, can have a safe playing space, can have a childhood, can have a future to look forward to. Success means service. And my parents led by example. They moved around East Africa working with different communities, and being part of other people's transformations was the greatest joy that we could experience. Service means action. And growing up in such a family, I had to stop and ask myself, what will I do in my lifetime to create the biggest impact for the health and well-being of our planet? And I became so committed to understanding the full extent of that question, to understand what impact means, that curiosity landed me a scholarship at Harvard. And there I was, a young, naive freshman who was hungry to understand the complexities of our social, environmental, and economic systems, how they interacted, and the type of leadership that we need in the world today. And like many of my friends, I moved to Silicon Valley after Harvard because I was inspired by what it represented, the tip of the spear of societal progress. So I joined a technology company to understand the full power of technology, to understand the human potential. And Silicon Valley was amazing at attracting the smartest and well-intentioned people from across the world. But when they arrived, they joined a predominant culture that was obsessed with gadgets, obsessed with accumulating as much wealth and power as possible. It was so seductive. It was easy to hoard and binge, and this is never enough. We were not focused on rebuilding our broken institutions. We were not focused on creating a healthier planet. And it was then when I received that letter from the US government telling me that I could not be there anymore. And when I got over feeling sorry for myself, I decided to take action and be part of creating change on this issue. And I was reminded of this quote from Buckminster Fuller, who said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing ones obsolete." That was a light bulb moment for me. And I pulled out a world map and asked myself, where on this planet can I be part of creating the type of impact that we need? Where I don't have to spend so much time and energy trying to prove my worth. Instead, spending all of that energy creating impact, creating value. And after a very long search, I found Aotearoa, New Zealand. And Aotearoa welcomed me with open arms. And with a hongi. A very important part of the Maori tradition, the indigenous people of the land. When they welcome newcomers, when they greet each other, is the sharing of the breath of life. When I came to Aotearoa, I found a spirit of service and a spirit of values, where women had first the right to vote here, where the nation stood up against apartheid, it stood up against nuclear arms. I found a spirit of stewardship, where a river and a forest were given personhood status, setting new global precedent for the rights of nature. And our new Prime Minister has put the health of the planet on top of the national agenda, which is creating a new frontier for climate action. I found a spirit of creativity that could launch rockets into space with a homegrown company, Rocket Labs, or turn waste gases into biofuel. I found a humble spirit dedicated to serving others, where Sir Edmund Hillary did not just become a hero for climbing Mount Everest, he became a hero for what he did afterwards, dedicating his life to serving communities from Antarctica all the way to Nepal. I found the right ingredients to create the type of impact the world needs, a place where we can experiment in ways that no one else can. And so imagine this, New Zealand as an incubation nation, where the most creative minds from around the world can come together to tackle global problems, where we can develop the proof of concept, the experiments, the prototypes of institutions that start and finish with values, of innovations that are there to address chronic issues around the world. Imagine that. This vision reached senior government, where in February 2015, the head of New Zealand Immigration Department reached out to my team, and he asked us if we could collaboratively design a new immigration policy to achieve this vision. Something that could be created from scratch, bottom up, using all the creative talents that are available, all the ideas from across the country and across the world, and do it in a way that creates lasting value for the country and the world. And as somebody who spent a lot of my life accumulating immigration scars, I found the opportunity to be part of creating the new models that can make the old ones obsolete. And immigration is one of the toughest and most risk-averse parts of any government. So if we can do this in immigration, then it can be done elsewhere. And if New Zealand does it, then others can emulate it. I was all in. So we started working and had hundreds of conversations. But what became really apparent is that naming is important. The name you give to something embeds a certain set of values and purpose into what you do. So we decided to call it the Global Impact Visa, because this is about creating global impact from New Zealand. And that name stuck, and it became a reality. 12 months from that first conversation, there was a policy paper in front of Cabinet, and it got a checkbox. And then 8 months from then, we launched a new visa program. We started every conversation and ended them with values. I remember there was a moment we were in a conference room at an immigration building, and one of the policy analysts in there interrupted us and said, "You know, at the end of the day, we all joined the public sector so that we can create positive impact in people's lives. This is why I joined government." That was a very important moment in the development of this program, because it allowed those values to be embedded from top to bottom in what was being created. And this is also not just about a visa policy. This was about building community of impact. This is about fostering collaboration and creating collective impact. And so we built the Edmund Hillary Fellowship to partner with government that my team runs, where we bring together the most visionary and creative entrepreneurs from across the world to tackle global challenges from Aotearoa. And Immigration New Zealand runs the visa. And this is also about creating local solutions to global problems. And so we have New Zealanders and internationals to be part of this fellowship. This is about building a global community of global citizens, no matter their age, the background, what nationality that they have, how many degrees they've collected, and if none, their sexual orientation. We spend time getting to know people as humans and hearing their stories, because that's something that all of us have. Some of our first fellows include Fred, who's leading the blockchain revolution to put power and control back into people's hands. Audrey, who is tackling poverty by investing in women entrepreneurs. Anne-Marie, who is creating new global standards for human rights measurement. Daniel, who's tackling climate change and waste through activism and fashion. Emmeline, who is democratizing the space industry, and we are just getting started. My friends, we are at the beginning of a new and exciting movement. A movement where a small nation at the edge of the map is becoming a global role model. But it is setting new precedent at putting values and purpose and the human element in its institutions. We saw this with the creation of the Global Impact Visa, but it just feels like the beginning. What else is possible? What can we do when we can bring together the most creative minds to tackle global challenges? Because we live in extraordinary times today. And the future and success of our planet depends on the actions we take during our lifetimes. The world is in desperate need for bold leadership, for servant leadership. And we have an opportunity to rise up as leaders, to set new examples, to set new precedents. We can stand up together. Let us rise up to this challenge. Thank you.